Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ecology Presents. This is our May edition. I'm Kristen Hancock. I'm so thrilled to be with all of you today. We have such a cool, unique panel conversation happening today that I am particularly excited about. I am joined on the screen, as you see, by our Ecology members and friends, Rachel Madanek and Daniel Mendez. Hello to both of you. How's everyone doing today?
Good. How are
Excellent.
you?
Hi.
This should have been like a wait for it. How's everybody doing tonight? That's what I should have started with. Like,
Exactly. We didn't talk about having wigs and
yeah,
like
we
on
could have done a little
stage
electric
outfits.
guitar intro or something. That would have been awesome. We are talking about arts and crafts and comms today. I would love to hear in the comments where everyone is joining us from. We are live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. If you can tell us where you're from, I would also love in my living room right now. My mom is visiting from Canada, and my husband has set up this live stream on our television so that she can watch the live stream. Please
Hi,
tell
Kristen's mom.
Sandra a
Hi,
hello.
Mom.
Yeah, hi, Kristen.
Hi,
Hi, Sandra.
Mom.
Tell Sandra where you're saying hi from in the comments in the chat. That would be lovely. She will love that. So we will start with some introductions. Rachel and Daniel, why don't we? I'm with Ecology, just in case anyone isn't familiar with that yet. Why don't we start with a brief little professional introduction of where you are, what you do, and then we're going to get into a little more arts and crafts and comms introduction after that. Daniel, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Mendez. I'm originally from Chile, been living in the United States since 2015, and I'm currently in Princeton, New Jersey. I have 15 years of experience in corporate communications, in particular internal communications and executive comms. And I've been in several industries, including mining, engineering and construction, and now in biopharma. So super happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
You've covered some ground professionally from an industry.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to be in very unique and interesting industries, so it's
Love
been
it.
fun.
Awesome. And Rachel,
I'm Rachel Madanek. I'm in Northern California, and my background is internal comms by way of digital marketing, birthing the mobile revolution. My career predates social and the iPhone. Um, and a long ride in customer external communities, and that led me to internal communities, employee engagement, and now I'm sort of in change management and internal comms, and at the confluence of all those things.
love it, love it.
Yeah,
Welcome.
yeah.
We have some people. Our friend Kristen Cook is wishing says hi from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My mom flew from Winnipeg, so Sioux Falls, like they're basically neighbors at this point. Those the two of them. You could wave at each other even when she's not in Indianapolis. That'd be great. And just in case anyone was wondering if my husband is supportive, he is my Chuck Gose is the acting CTO of the Gose Hancock household, so he is setting everything up. Zahid wants to know if Chuck is wearing his championship belt. That's a whole other offline story. There's championship belts in our living room, so if you need to understand that, you need to reach out to Chuck and ask him about that.
There's pictures in LinkedIn, I think.
Oh,
So
there you go.
yeah,
Perfect. Yes,
there
of
you go.
course there
Yeah.
are. Of course there are. I also would love to give people a little background on this title for this webinar, for this live stream event. The Arts and Crafts and Comms title I was hesitant to use. And in fact, Chuck did tell me that I might piss some people off by using it. And I'm typically not one who likes to stir the pot, but I really loved this title because I know all of us in internal comms get so tired of being perceived as the arts and crafts, make it pretty committee kind of thing. So but I had to play off of it. I was sharing offline before we started, and part of how this conversation came to be is that I've encountered so many people in internal comms, in comms in general, but specifically internal comms, who have a really fascinating background in the arts. People who sing, people who dance, people who paint, people who play instruments, people who act. There's just this really interesting Venn diagram crossover of folks who are in the communications industry and also have this background in the arts. And so I put the call out to our ecology members and said, I want to have this conversation about the arts and how it fuels our professional roles. Who has a background in that? And I had an overwhelming response. So many people. We could have done like a 9-person panel on this topic, but you are looking at two of our wonderful members who are participating and who are happy to be here, which is awesome. So on the note of uh, arts backgrounds, I requested from Rachel and Daniel that they produce some photos. So live streaming will not let us play music and original in a younger age, performing in some way or participating in the arts some way, and they delivered. So we are gonna have a little ecology flashback here. I'm gonna add Miss Rachel Medanic's 3 photos. Rachel, would you like to walk through quickly a little brief intro of these 3 photos?
Sure, I can do that. So I think the top right is I'm on the right, the darker colored, dark hair, dark eyes, darkish skin, right? Summers, probably without sunblock. Hello, Gen X. Um, this is me dancing in Kentucky. I have Southern roots, and I'm an only child. And so I go there some summers and some summers in Arkansas, and my relatives would be on the phone finding somebody for me to play with. I think this is Marky Joe. um, on the far left is some of my early years in California at a very famous belly dance festival that no longer exists called Ricasa. I'm the darker one in the back. And the lower right is 2019. That's me being a lead singer, which I didn't really start doing, like being the only singer, because I have a choral background and a barbershop background, till about 2019. And then came the pandemic. So that was fun. So those are the stories.
We haven't even started talking about the pandemic and arts.
I know.
That's a whole other live stream event for sure, for sure. Thank you, Rachel. Now I have heard Rachel sing. Rachel has a podcast called Agile Vocalist. For anyone who is interested in checking that out, and it's an exploration of sound. Is that an accurate description, Rachel?
Sound and the arts. But yeah.
Beautiful. Rachel has a beautiful voice. I can vouch for that. Okay, Daniel, there's no hiding. Here we
No
go.
hiding.
Give us the lowdown on these 3 photos.
Sure. So my photos are not so recent. Actually, I've been playing solo for a while since I moved from Chile to the US because all of my band members are still in Chile. But the upper left, the picture in the upper left corner, that's one of the concerts that I had in my hometown in Iquique, Chile. At a bar there, and that was used to be the regular place to play Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, just to entertain folks that were going there for a drink or 10. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. The one on the right, that's the second time we were in studio recording a demo. So that's a couple of my bandmates there. And the one at the bottom, it's my new bandmates now. So those are my sons, Mateo, he's 7 now, and Camilo, he's 5 now. So I've been trying to force them into learning how to play ukulele, and cuatro and guitarra. So we have a lot of fun doing that.
Those must be quite the jam sessions.
Yes, especially because Mateo comes out with really great lyrics. So yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. And lately we've been doing a lot of covers from Encanto.
Oh,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't talk about Bruno and all of that stuff.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Now I'm going to try and pull this comment up. I think it'll let me. Here we go. Here you go. Zahid is a friend of ours in Saskatchewan. He misses Princeton Record Exchange. Are you familiar with the Princeton Record Exchange, Daniel?
Absolutely, yes. It's a wonderful place. I agree that it's a dream come true and a very unique place. So basically, you just walk in, and there's millions and millions of records. You find vinyls and cassettes, like tapes.
That's awesome.
You find like all sorts of things, and you can spend, at least I could spend there weeks just
Yep.
browsing through all the shelves there, and it's an amazing place. So
There you
I'm so
go.
glad that they bring it up. Yeah.
He's got a place to crash now in Princeton if he needs to go to the Princeton Record
Absolutely. And
Exchange. I
then we
love
can go
it.
to Triumph Brewery, and make it a whole day.
That's amazing. We're all going to Princeton.
Yep.
Okay, not to be excluded from this, I want to make sure everyone understands that I'm fully qualified to participate in this conversation or lead the discussion. Oh, here's my 3 photos. Top left, high school musical, The Wizard of Oz. I did, in fact, play the Tin Man. That's me backstage. There's a whole story about my costume for that event that is absolutely not an online conversation, so we can chat about that later. The far right, I was in a musical theater choir group for most of my, I don't know, school years, I guess, through the end of grade 12. We went to choir camp once a year. I have no idea what I'm performing here, but it's probably something, I don't know, like melodramatic of some kind of theme from like the late 90s, I guess. Bottom left, this is a pivotal moment in my Broadway career as a child. That's me circled in yellow playing Mrs. Claus in my kindergarten school play. I had a solo. This was the first time I was ever really like on stage as a big deal at 5 years old. And I was so nervous that I held up the entire production for like 30 minutes because I refused to go on stage because I was crying and I was nervous. And so my teacher told me, Kristen, you can just go out there and close your eyes and it'll be like no one's there. Okay, great advice. So I sang my entire solo with my eyes closed. Somewhere there is footage of me singing this entire solo with my eyes closed at age 5. It's a really magical moment. So there we go.
Well, at least they didn't tell you that advice that normally they give when you're having like a panic attack on
Yes.
stage. It's like, just think about everybody's naked. Well,
Yeah.
that's a
Terrible
whole
advice.
different
I'm
approach.
not sure eyes
Exactly.
closed was better, but maybe at 5 it was. I don't know. Anyway.
So Kristen, I really have to ask this dumb question just in case there's others in the rooms. I can't tell. Is it you with the guitar or in the
Yes,
red? Oh, it is. Okay.
it
Okay.
is.
I was just like, okay, which
Yep.
is, I can't, when people smile, their face shape changes and you're
Yep.
like, wait, what? So,
That's
yeah.
me with the guitar.
Okay, cool.
Moving right along from all of our childhood photographs now. I would love to know in the chat, if you're just joining us, we're talking about how our passion for the arts can fuel our professional roles in the world of internal comms. And I would love to know if there's people joining us. If you play an instrument, do you dance? Do you paint? Do you sing? Do you act? Like, what is your arts background, if any? Do you DJ? There are people who DJ, I think, who are in internal comms. So I would love to hear from those people. Okay, I want to kick things off here because one of the first conversations we had when we were talking about this conversation was about how the arts, people might not realize, can fuel this work ethic in you. And it's something I hadn't thought of until the 3 of us were talking the other day. Daniel, I don't know if you want to talk maybe about even some of the band work and how that work ethic can fuel what you do now in internal comms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really interesting point, because I actually never really thought about it until you said, we started talking, because, I started learning music when I was 7 years old, because my dad wanted to take me to class, and he said, I never learned how to play guitar. You have to learn how to play guitar. I wanted to play soccer, but from the very beginning, when I entered that room and everybody was just like creating and doing fun stuff, it was very magical moment. And since then, I started joining different bands with friends, and when there was a time, probably like the beginning of high school, when I said, look, I would love to do this professionally. This is just amazing. And we started getting into more, like self-manage our musical career, if you will. And we didn't have anything, like I always heard about like all these great bands having roadies and having, a sound engineer on stage and another one, with the crowd right in front of you. And it's just crazy how you start like filling those voids, right? That the things that you don't have, you have to learn how to do them, and you have to have this growth mindset, of acquiring new skills. And if there's something that you wanted to do in a certain way, just come up with ideas and how to make it happen. So definitely, that phase of my life where we had to pack my mom's car with all of our instruments and amplifiers and microphones, and just like going place to place and do everything, set up the stage and do the sound check, and then distribute the flyers and sell the tickets, and then play, and then hang out with the people after. All of that really translated in the future, in a lot of ways, in what I do currently professionally. um, and it feels this responsibility and being accountable for what you're trying to deliver, right? From beginning to end, and it's really crazy, to think about all the things that I acquire in terms of skills, due to the fact that I was doing music with my band, or I wanted to write a song, or I wanted to record a song. I kind of had to do it on my own. So definitely, it felt that work ethic in me, and in a lot of ways is the way that I work now. Trying to bring people together,
Yep.
trying to deliver skills, and try to teach people how to do stuff. So
Yep. I will bring in from our friend Kristen Cook. She danced growing up. She's played almost every supporting role in the Nutcracker, but never the
Wow.
lead. Kristen,
Oh,
I wanted to be Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz so badly, so badly. Alas, I was the Tin Man. So I understand where you're coming from.
my wife was the Tin Man too. So
Oh,
I
wonderful.
have
Okay. All right. So I
I
wasn't
have
the only
respect
one.
for that role.
Rachel, I know we're,
nice.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I was just thinking as both on my own, long years in dance because I found it more challenging than singing, at least at first. And I was doing group singing and harmony, which is all that stuff is kind of natural to me, not lead singing and leading a band. But I was just thinking about rehearsals as milestones, right? Just showing up to the rehearsal, right? And getting there and staying consistent with it. Like that's, very similar to conducting a project. And I'm, of course, on board, Daniel, with what you said about performing as a collaboration. Yes, you have a culmination. You can align that to similarity to events, but different people enjoy different parts of the process. My whole family, we all sing, and you know, I love improv. I love not performing, but just kind of making things up on the fly. And rehearsals are the antithesis to that, of
Very true.
course.
We
Um,
could do a whole internal comms like scripted versus
uh,
improv kind of thing,
uh-huh,
right? Like which
absolutely.
the skills of both. And Daniel, when you were describing like packing up my mom's car and
Yeah.
putting the amps in there and putting the microphone, all this stuff, I had flashbacks in my career to one job I had where we had an annual general meeting every year. And it was our team, putting the laptops together and getting all the AV stuff. Like we were doing it all ourselves. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, oh wow, what an interesting comparison. Because often, especially in internal comms, you are the only person,
Right.
right? Or if you have a team, typically, unless you work for a massive company, it's a very small team. So you really are doing everything. You're the one packing the totes, right? Like that's
Yep.
often part of your job, and that's an interesting comparison with.
And there, yeah, and then there's this varying way, like we're responsible for big picture in the arts and internal comms, and also like catch the typo, right? Like there's this range of attention to, the mission, the scope, the vision, the strategy, and then oh, there's a typo here, or it's got to be, close to picture perfect if you're doing communications, and so there's that. Some people do one or the other, but I find I do a bunch of both.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yep,
absolutely. And I think if you are fortunate enough to have a team in that case, it's
right.
great to have people on that team who have those different skill sets. Because I am often not a details person. So I always loved when there were people on my team who were like really good at finding typos because that's not always something that I spot easily, unfortunately. On that note, funny, we were also talking the work ethic and the teamwork thing
Yeah.
flows so nicely together. And I think the collaboration part, especially given that both of you have this background or experience in singing with a band, there's a very easy parallel, right, with the teamwork and the collaboration piece. I don't know, Daniel, if you have, was most of your experience in a band, were you singing or were you playing an instrument or both?
Both. So I've had bands where I've been, just playing guitar, and others I play guitar and sing, and others have been just singing. I've also played drums in a couple, improvised bands, and like playing multiple instruments has allowed me to interact with also, other friends and people, that play other types of music. So um, definitely the way I see, this uh, topic. Are we still there?
Oh, there we go. Are we all back?
I
Okay.
think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. So what I was saying is that, in terms of operation, we interact with everybody. Probably you can see it more in the collective, displays of arts, like in music or dancing, right? And it's again in the conversations we were having before this session, I realized like how the fact that I belong to a band, and having the experience of just like rehearsing and trying to put something together, but then when you go on stage, things not normally go the way you planned it, and you just have to rely on the people that you have on stage with you, your bandmates, and build this second language kind of thing, where you connect at another level and you trust each other to fill in the voice, or like if you didn't stop when you needed to stop, that you just keep going and start improvising and fill in, all of that allowed me to understand. And there's a lot of exercises for teamwork, that probably a lot of us have done, where someone starts playing like this beat on drums, and then someone else comes in, and you start seeing how the whole harmony comes together. And it's a great analogy, at the end of the day, when you're working in teams and you are bringing different skills into a product or a service, you kind of build that rapport that allows you to deliver great work with the contributions of everybody. And it's such a magical thing, that even now, like with the pandemic, since a lot of us were very isolated, started working from home, I really miss that, like that second language that you develop when you're interacting with people in real life.
Yeah, I want to speak to that a little bit. So as a singer who's used to working with other singers, it's a new journey for me to work with musicians. I don't know what it takes or what it's like to know chords or keys. Actually, I'm kind of, a newbie when it comes to that, and I am learning. I'm taking some classes on that and learning how to count in songs, but I'm leading, right? So the band is supporting what I'm singing, and we're doing covers and they're following me, but I'm also leading people. I have no idea what it's like to play a stringed instrument, right? And so I'm having to lead anyway, right? And there is once you start to rehearse with someone, you do fill in. We're starting to see that you're filling in and instinctively following each other. And that really is a trust building exercise.
I'm
Um,
curious then if we
yeah.
can take that analogy
Yeah.
and take it into the office, whether it's remote or not,
Hmm.
physical or not.
Right.
When
Right.
you are starting a role and you are, say, you're joining a new team, where's that parallel between Rachel, like you said, joining a new band? Like
Yeah.
what are those first steps to figuring out how are we jiving together? And I don't know the answer to this because I've never played in a band. So if you meet new bandmates, do you just
Hmm.
all sit down and jam together right off the bat, or do you take some time to figure things out first?
We My experience has been jammed together, and I had one experience in early 2019 where our jamming together was picking what songs we were going to do. right? And now the ensemble that I'm in, and hopefully we get to perform in early June, I got to pick all the songs, which was just a miracle for me. It was a blues and groove ensemble, and they're like, well, what do you want to sing? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we're doing all things that I love.
Like, what don't I want to sing is a better question.
Right. Well, it's, I don't want to sing everything, but I really love funk and blues. And so yeah, it's as
Daniel, would you say that's the same for you or different?
So I think in some ways the same. I mean, I was thinking about it, and probably it's just like really learning again, like the skills that someone has, either as a musician or as a professional, right? Or as an artist, overall. I've had a lot of conversations with friends, especially, when during the pandemic, when we're like trying to just create music to keep us busy. Um, I remember this friend of mine, was telling me, hey, I put together this melody, but I'm just really bad at writing lyrics. Like, I just can't. Can you do some lyrics for this song? And I was like, sure. Like, do you have an idea? And he's like, not at all. So just go with whatever you think. And we ended up putting something together that we both were very happy with it. And it was a good blend of that, for the analogies. Like, you kind of understand within your band, who can do what and who does something better, and then you just take it from there. I remember, again, going back to that example, when you're on stage and something goes wrong, most of the time, you rely on the drummer, because he's the one that's going to keep the beat going, and then you can just start filling in with the other instruments, and then
Interesting.
get back in track. So it's like understanding the roles and what things can, each member bring to the table.
I
yeah,
want to know too, it would be interesting to have a conversation within a team to say, who's the drummer?
Who's the drummer? Who
Like,
keeps us going?
absolutely.
who is the drummer of this team? Who is going to keep the beat going when we lose our places, right?
Right. Right.
So someone on LinkedIn, a mysterious person on LinkedIn, says creativity comes in many shapes and forms too. 100%. I'm
Yeah.
curious, Daniel and Rachel. I know, I don't know if either of you have any background in the fine arts, but I'm curious, or maybe people in the comments have experience in some form of fine arts, tactile arts, painting, sculpting, whatever, that involves a group of people. I would love to know, right? If has anyone ever collaborated on a painting
Yes.
together? That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I'm on the board of a family performing arts camp, and my daughter and I both participated in. It's called mail art, and it's sort of collage, but what we did is we would do a page in a book and send it on to the next person. And so
Interesting.
we did a lot of that collage kind
Yep.
of stuff during the pandemic.
Yep.
And I find that sometimes doodling in my notebook as I'm listening on a meeting, like I'll start to create things. I had jury duty last year. I did some amazing doodles, and I'm not an artist, but I actually saved a couple of pages. I'm like, that's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Because they wouldn't let you can't read, you can't look at your phone, but you can
Sure.
doodle. And I actually brought some coloring. I find coloring very resetting for the brain.
Therapeutic, sure.
Yeah.
We've got this
Yeah.
is an incredible idea. Zane, who is also an ecology member, the highlight of 2020, he coordinated an internal music festival, inviting employees to share videos of their music performances. It was ridiculously fun. I bet it was ridiculously fun. See, people have, never mind the comms part of it, people have talents that we have no idea about, right? If you are in internal comms and you're trying to, I'll call it crowdsource something that's going to bring people together, nothing brings people together like the arts, like music
Right.
specifically, I think.
Right.
That would be an incredible, there's a good tip for anyone in internal comms. That would be an incredible, yeah, that would be an incredible thing
You
to
know,
have.
Kristen, I was thinking there was another analogy around miscommunications. Remember, you
Yep.
had the internal miscommunications, is that a wrong note isn't necessarily a bad note.
Hmm.
And so when you have that, you can build trust, you can build authenticity. And as an internal comms person, it's like, well, how do we make light of this? How do we use it, right? Because you've got the bad PR, right? You
Sure.
made the mistake. How do you flip it on its head and turn that mistake into entertainment, edutainment, right?
Yep. Yep.
A point of like shit happens to us all, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All that stuff is opportunities to really show transparency, authenticity, and just
Yeah.
be candid,
Yeah.
right? So,
There's an element of the creativity part, when we talk about this, there's that myth that people have the attention span of a goldfish, which has been debunked now for several years, but because we don't, we binge hours and hours and hours of content on streaming platforms everywhere. Um, but we are competing in many ways with that same content, right? We're trying to catch the attention span of employees in our workplaces, and some of those employees are getting really entertaining content from other places, social media, Netflix, whatever. And so that element of creativity, I think, comes in really handy. As you said, Rachel, like there's this miscommunication thing, but can we reframe the problem, is sort of what you're saying, right? Can we reframe this? Oh, somebody said the wrong line. Did they say the wrong line, or do we just need to learn to adapt to
right,
what was just said, right?
right.
Which is sort of to your point about improv.
Hmm.
Have you used improv in a workplace ever? Or Daniel, have you?
Um, I mean, generally, no. I would say
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
when you're in a corporate environment, it's like
It's
sometimes it's
hard.
tough to improvise. But I would say that, during the pandemic, and I feel like we keep saying during the pandemic, and which is a big awakening, right? I feel like everybody learned to be a little more relaxed about things. And, especially working with executives, I've found that a lot of them were used to this whole planning. Every time that they needed to record a video, for example, they wanted the script and they wanted a teleprompter and being in studio and perfectly dressed and makeup and everything. It was like a whole production that you have to plan for months to make it happen. But I feel like with the pandemic, we realized that really all of that doesn't really matter when you need to deliver an important and critical message. And most of the time, that message will come way more genuine when it comes from the heart, right? So I feel like I've seen way more, my colleagues and myself move from scripting to, maybe just put together a couple talking points and just play by ear, go with it, record a couple takes, if you don't like it, we add a couple things and then we edit and it's fine. If you blink too many times, it's fine. If it doesn't transition perfectly, it's fine. If you're not wearing a tie and you're not in studio, it's fine. And really, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, that was the content that was engaging more people and kept everybody, feeling, like keeping it together, like, because it was really easy to just fall, and start feeling super alone. But understanding that everybody was in the same position, I think it was a great thing, that happened. And luckily, a lot of those things have continued now that, the pandemic is a little more under control. But we continue to play it a little more, be more free about those things that in the past were unthinkable.
I feel like creativity and passion, and this maybe the pandemic helped this as well, but um, the discussion and the ideas around bring your whole self to work. The pandemic really stripped us down and forced that. But there's also, quite a bit around resilience, right? So I'm always looking for the connections between arts and business. I've been doing that sort of in my work life and on the side since the early 2000s. And I feel like the conversation about where the arts fits into work and employee wellness is around resilience, right? So, one of the ways that I have decompressed in my career over the years is around taking a tense work situation, be it about people or, technologies or things or whatever, and I'll rewrite a song about it, right? And so it's a way for me to make light, steal a melody, rewrite the lyrics, and it just helps me get a mental distance from what's going on, and that helps keep me resilient, right? Can I make it funny? Can I make it creative? Can I
Do you
make a joke
share
out of it?
this?
Sometimes. I've
Okay.
only rarely, yeah. On my last computer, I actually searched around just to see what songs I had rewritten about work. And it's some of the older files. I haven't done it in a while, but sometimes I share it with my team, right? If, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody or
Yep.
make them feel negative. Sometimes I read somebody said something somewhere like when you're doing a technology upgrade, you can think of like death metal and head banging, right? Because this is this droning, tedious, exhausting work
Yep.
that goes on and on and on. So it's different ways to apply what the arts gives us in our
Yep.
work life to make the life a little bit more tolerable, especially in times of intolerance or stress or tension or whatever.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
whole thing happening in the chat here about what your comms team style is. So some people are saying, "Oh, well, Chuck goes Duran Duran. That's not surprising. New wave, bringing in new technology." Zahid says he'd be heavy metal.
Okay.
Zane is saying he'd be Grateful Dead.
Okay.
Apparently, Zahid thinks I would be T-Pain because I have a glittery microphone and I could use
o-
auto tune. Okay,
Okay.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that. So maybe think about who you would like to be in your comms team musical style. Maybe that would be something. But you know what I think, Rachel? It's funny you say that rewriting. I'm a big fan of rewriting song lyrics for fun and entertainment and humor. I would love for a comms team to pick a theme song and maybe rewrite the lyrics. That would be a fun team building kind
About
of
their that'd be
exercise.
super fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That would be really funny. Daniel, what we've talked so much about the arts being this like therapeutic kind of way to help with things. How has that helped you over the last, well, your life, but over the last 2 years especially?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been critical. I feel like everybody realized around the world, that the arts kept society together, and it was amazing to see, in many parts of the world how artists will play from their balcony or just in the street, and perform for their neighbors, and a lot of people just started like buying guitars and taking or taking that guitar from the basement and start playing again, because I feel like music and art in general has this therapeutic effect, and I mean it's all very connected to your emotions at the end of the day, and it's an outlet. I During the pandemic, one of the things that we started doing with my family was to put together puzzles, and then we were like, why don't we make a mural? So we started putting, my kids and my wife and I, we bought a ton of coloring pencils and this huge rolls of butcher paper, and we just lay it across the room and just paint, and draw on on the ground, and make a landscape. And we started doing it with the boys, like, where would you like to be today? We're like, the beach. Okay, let's do the beach. We couldn't go, but we draw it, and it was just fascinating how things just start happening. And one of the things that my wife actually still makes fun of me with this is that at some point, I was going crazy. Like, I'm a very social person. Like, I used to go out a lot and just have, things, hobbies, and, interact with other people. And at some point I was just going nuts. And I remember that I started, writing a little more, and started making a couple songs on my own. And I wrote this super dark song at some point, and I showed it to my wife, and she was like, "Are you okay? Is this about you?" And I'm like, "No, it's not about me." And I said, "Don't laugh, but this song is about the cactus we have in the bathroom." And we have this little cactus that it's on top of a shelf there, and it's all by itself, and it doesn't have any light, and it doesn't have, like, we never watered that thing. And I just kept looking at it every day that I would go there, and it's like, it must be super sad to be that cactus. And I started writing the song, and it's just crazy, like how these things just come about. And you translate those emotions into something else and transform it all around. And my wife is like, yeah, well, Daniel was really going crazy, he wrote a song for the cactus. But that's how it happens. And
I
it's very,
love that. I want to see a picture of the cactus now, and I want to hear the
oh,
song about the sad, lonely
sure, yeah.
cactus.
Maybe we can upload
Put
the
it in the
song somewhere,
network.
but
Put it in the network.
Yeah, yeah. The
yeah,
Well,
other,
I
you know,
think, and that's the other thing that the arts teaches is how to put yourself in someone's shoes. One of the
mm,
things I see a lot as a consultant is the inability to get out of our, whatever we're doing, it's top of mind for us. Why would we imagine it's not top of mind for everyone else? Right?
no,
Like I'm deploying a technology right now, and the inability to get out of, like, people are doing other things. They're looking at other apps. They're not going to look at our app, right? And
yeah,
so it really, when you force yourself to write about the cactus, you're building empathy from another standpoint.
yeah.
And that's, and you can't get that anywhere else. Like maybe you can do a corporate seminar on empathy building, but where do you get that, like on a regular
Yeah.
basis, so you're continuing to build it for yourself in your career?
And
So
having a seminar is not really going to build
right.
anything from the inside out, right? We
Right.
all we all know that. We all know that. Daniel, I love the idea. I want to put this out there because I would love to know, first of all, does anyone in their, I guess this is more of a physical office thing, but does anyone in their workplace have either like a piano, or I mean, I doubt you'd have instruments lying around, but does anyone have an art room? Like, wouldn't that be really cool in an office if you had a space where people could go, even if you don't play piano? This is the thing about, so I grew up with piano lessons, and I could probably play some very basic things now, but um, even if you do not play the piano, if there's a group of people and and in a room and there's a piano, someone will sit down. Someone will sit down and play around with it, even if they have no musical knowledge. Someone will sit and play on that piano. So I would wonder, and when you're talking about the big rolls of paper and the art, like, who's to say you couldn't do that in an office? Wouldn't that be really magical that you could have a group art project? And I'm sure there's a way you could adapt that digitally, right? That you could have some kind of group crowdsourced art project. There's got to be, I'm promised, there's got to be technology that, could do something like that. That would be really
Mhm.
cool. I think that would be really therapeutic for people. It would be so
Yeah.
interesting to see what people would put together from that.
Right, like, almost like a chalkboard where you can leave notes for
Yeah.
your, yeah. I
Yeah.
think Mural would
yeah,
be an interesting technology to look at for that. They do all kinds of,
Is
I've
that a company
seen,
name?
yeah, I think it's
mhm.
mural.co or IO. It's sort of an
I think it is.
interactive tool.
Mhm.
Yeah, have you used it? So that might be a starting point. I don't know if that's the right tool, but it would be like a digital company mural. You could just take your lunch break and sign up to
Yeah.
color in it on your computer or your app or whatever. Would be kind of fun.
Daniel, have you ever worked in an office with musical
Yeah,
instruments?
yes. So when I was in mining, one of the things that it's very unique about that profession is that, at least in Chile, is that the mining operations are in the middle of the Andes, right? So it's very isolated, very far. You have to drive in, drive out, and some places fly in, fly out. So there's camps where you live there for a certain amount of time. So people, for example, have shifts 7 days in, 4 days off, or 10 by 10, and so on. So I used to, in the beginning of my career, I was single. I used to live in the mine. Like I spent there 7 days and then 7 days off, or 4 days in, 3 days off. And we used to sleep in this camp, right? And one of the things that we requested, and it came as part of a culture exercise, was to set up a rehearsing room. And we asked management to bring everything. It was a sort of a studio, so it was isolated, soundproofed. It had a drum set, it had keyboards, it had a couple microphones, a bass guitar, and an electric guitar. and people had to schedule time and just go there. And we used to have improv hours. So if you like an open mic session type of thing. So in the nighttime, if you had nothing to do, you would just show up and go play your songs, or just collaborate with other members of the team that maybe played another instrument and just play a song together. And it was very cool. Like what happened in that room, really built this. It was in the beginning. This was a new company, so it was also like a team building activity that happened every day, right? And the cool thing was that mine operations are 24/7, so there's shifts in the nighttime and shifts in the daytime. So the room always had people in. In the mornings, people that were coming out of their shifts, like they will be talking about a song, and then they would just go there and put it together. So that was the closest experience to
That is
that, and
so
it worked
cool.
out like a
That is
charm. Yeah, it was very cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
That is
It
so
was
so
very cool.
amazing.
here's an interesting point. So Zahid brought up a local tech company used to have a
Soundproof.
soundproof jam room. And so you could
Uh-huh.
like fidget while problem solving. That's what I think is cool. Now here's the thing I find, it's always the tech companies that have this cool stuff in it. I would love to hear about like a large manufacturing company that had that, or like a pharmaceutical company, like something like a very typically, I don't know, bureaucratic, large scale, kind of very old school office type of thing. Wouldn't that be cool if they had an art room
Well,
or,
my
a
my
jam
my
room?
current client has a I mean, one of the sites has a talent show.
Really?
Yeah, and I think they've been doing it a number of years.
That's really
I
cool.
was trying to push them to make it more virtual, but they were very much show up and
Okay.
perform. I still need to dig up what happened because I'm not even in their state, and
Yeah.
I think they need to take that content and do something with it, right?
Yeah. And
So
here's the other thing that when we talked about, the creativity part and including all people from it, I think there's a big inclusion piece to the arts, right? In many cases, now I understand that there might be lyrics to songs, but music is a universal type of language, right? The notes and the scales and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's an element of diversity there. There's an element of inclusion. I think that there is an opportunity to bring in folks to some kind of artistic venture who might not typically be involved with a lot of other company related activities. I think they might feel more welcomed at something arts related. Now, I don't know if either of you have experience with that or have seen it happen or anything like that.
well, so I'm a big champion of keeping the arts in schools. We're not doing so great on that.
Yeah.
I did some looking into some data and statistics. I know business community likes that kind of stuff. Kids who have been involved with the arts are 40% more likely to have friends from another race.
Really?
There are IQ benefits to being involved in the arts, of course, as adults, which is I think the time we need the arts almost as much as kids is, there are benefits to being involved in the arts to reduce things like risk of dementia, right?
Mm.
And keeping your brain engaged differently. So,
That's an
yeah,
interesting point because so much and I think in some ways the argument could be made for athletics, though
some
I
ways, yeah.
think it's more so for the arts that when you are finished school, that's
Right.
often it,
That's
right?
often it for your
Like
arts
there's
education.
no
Yep.
transitioning to some kind of adult arts program. I'm sure there are things that exist, but in my
Yep.
experience, it was like, well, you've graduated from high school, and if you're not going to college for the
For the
arts, which I
arts,
was
yep.
not,
Right. What do you do?
yeah, that's it.
Well, that's sort of an answer. I mean, I answered that question with my own life, and definitely I would say so when I moved to California, I started out singing and then quickly discovered I needed a workout. I wanted to work out, and that's how I found belly dance. And
Mm.
that opened up the whole Middle Eastern cultures and rhythms, and I learned to play finger cymbals and drums and danced with a couple of troops, like, and in thinking back on it, like learning a different culture through dance and music leads to, well, what about their food? Well,
Mm.
what about their religion? What about their customs? And that's never left me. My belly dance training has never left me. It's like riding a bicycle. Of course, it's very rusty. It doesn't look, but it's I have a whole in my playlists, you'll hear it if you ever spend long periods of time with me. It's like I'll go from blues to jazz to pop to just driving around listening to percussion and drums because to me that's music. I learned to get a good sweat in a giant room with women doing belly dance drills to intense drum solos and Middle Eastern music playing at incredibly loud volumes,
Mm.
right? And that I've never been able to lose that. And it's a precious part of who I am.
And so
So,
here's an
yes, diversity,
yeah,
inclusion,
and here's an
yes.
interesting point too from Zane. Doesn't much care about sports, would love for more work events to be connected to the arts. Amen. Because I think it's easy, right? Oh, let's go to Top Golf, or let's go
Right.
to a sporting event, and
Yep.
maybe that's interesting for some people, but some people might like to go to a concert or learn to paint something, do a paint night, or there's. I think that's a great point for us to keep in mind as internal communicators that you have a wide diversity of interests in your employee groups, many of whom are not interested in going to Top Golf. So.
I think, to his comment, I think it's the arts are not to say there isn't emotion in sports, but it's either I'm winning or I'm losing, and that's
Hmm.
one paradigm. For me, collaborative paradigms and shared power are really important, and
That's that's a very interesting point.
I wanna give more presence to them, and I think the arts is a little bit more effective in teaching that, and it's also a much more emotional place, and it's like, "Well, I don't like that kind of music," place, and so it's more threatening in terms of
Mm,
a team adventure where it's like, "Oh, we wanna take our people there, but, oh, what if they don't like theater?" Or
yeah,
whereas sports is just like culturally in the US, it is assumed that we can appreciate that, and
yeah.
I'm not sure that's, to his comment, right on. I don't know.
And to your point about winning or losing, even if you're talking about, oh, we're all gonna go play whatever sport together because it's gonna be teamwork. Well, it's still teamwork with the goal of winning, right?
Right,
That's
right.
that's still the plan.
I'm so deep in the arts that I'm the weirdest sports fan ever. I go and when I go to games, which is I don't really follow teams, but when I go to a game, I cheer for the game.
Oh, that's
I
funny.
want the most competitive, the most athletic, the hottest, tightest score. I want an experience that's exciting. And for me, that's not one team it's not my team or your team. That's the game. I want triple overtime. I want incredible, like I'm a big basketball person. So I want like many overtimes. And, so it's hard to go to sports with me.
Daniel, you wanted to play soccer. Do you still have do you still have a passion for sports too and for soccer?
Well, not really at all.
Really?
No, yeah, I'm actually real bad with sports, and especially since I moved to the US. I think it's a really good point from Rachel because there's such a culture here for sports. Like you have sports for every season, and there's so much that you have multiple teams that you will follow, and to me it was like mind blowing. Every time like we would go on a Sunday afternoon to a bar or something, everybody's just watching a game, and I'm like, well, this is weird. But because in Chile is like soccer and maybe tennis, but that's what it is. Like everybody just
Oh.
cheers for the national selection, and then of course is like the local league, and that's about it. But um, so I'm not really into sports. I mean, I enjoy watching a game, but I don't. I gotta say, I still don't understand American football.
That's
So,
okay.
there's
I'm
too
not
many
sure that we
flags
do
and
either.
things. So, yeah. But one of the things, and to the point that Rachel was making about, like the ones that win and the ones that lose. I remember, I think it was Brian May from Queen that once said, like, what I really love about music is that we fill, huge stadiums with people, but when we sing, everybody's cheering for the same team for us, right?
Oh.
So and it's true. I mean, that's what I really love about concerts, like that it's something that to me is such, you know uh like food for the soul, to just see how everybody connects, and another quote, from Dave Grohl It's like, I can sing a song to 50,000 people, and those 50,000 people are going to sing the song for 50,000 different reasons, because it means something different for each person. So all of that is just really corny and cheesy, but hey.
No, but the arts unite. I mean, the arts unite in a pretty unique way.
And
Yes.
Dave
So,
Grohl is a global treasure. I think we
yes.
can we can all agree
Yeah, please
Yes.
on that.
wrap that man in a blanket or something. Keep
Yeah,
Yes.
him cozy.
exactly, exactly.
Yes.
We've got just a couple of minutes left. I do want to have a quick little, I'll call it a round table, but really it's the two of you. I want to know if there are any tools like software or like physical things that you've used in the arts that have now translated into your professional life.
Well, so I haven't used it yet for work, but I learned how to produce podcasts, which is
Oh,
another form of arts production.
sure.
That's when I started about the time icology was revived here in this community in February 2020. Or
Okay. And
was
what
it 2021? It's 2021. Sorry. I
yeah,
can't
that's
even get
okay.
the years right.
What do you use? Are you using like Pro Tools or Adobe stuff or
I've upgraded. I'm on a journey learning about good sound because I
okay,
definitely hear it. I use Audacity. I use Soundtrap. I use multiple recording devices,
okay.
and I think that's kind of why I get away with having a podcast that's so much about the arts, is I can blend in all kinds of creative sounds and clips, and I think it makes it a little more engaging. But I also try to address kind of the brain science behind that. But yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of audio tools for me.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah. Well, there's so many, and I feel so thankful that I started learning those, when I did. So again, going back to the self-managing, the musical career that we were building at some point, I learned how to use Adobe Premiere
Okay.
and Fruity Loops to create, one videos and other, bases for, samples,
Okay. It's
for
called
drums
Fruity
and stuff.
Loops.
Fruity Loops. Yeah, now it's like it's an old
Okay.
software, and now people are using other
Okay.
other things that like GarageBand. It's way better
Okay.
than Fruity Loops was in the past. But anyway, so the Adobe Creative Suite is something that I used a lot. Like I used to put together posters and flyers and things, to promote our concerts. So I used InDesign, Photoshop, and learned, my own watching videos in YouTube, or reading, tutorials on how to do those things. I also learned how to edit, in Adobe Premiere pretty early when they started launching, like the first edition of it. It's way better now. Just to put together, teasers that we will post before and after concerts. But also the other thing that was very cool is that because of the band, I got into social media pretty early in the process,
Okay.
especially for Chile. We were in MySpace, for those that remember.
Yes.
And we used to use that a lot. And then when Facebook became a thing, all the events were promoted that way, and we created, a handle for the band and start posting content there, and engaging with the people that were going to listen to us at concerts. And then Twitter, was huge. So I feel like understanding, how can you use those tools for marketing was also like
Mhm.
a big plus for me, and how you engage with people in this platform. So
That's huge. That's huge.
yeah.
On that note, we are going to wrap up. I love that we've ended on a very practical note for people who maybe aren't interested in the arts, but here's a very direct link between what you can take from that learning and bring it into your professional life. So I have nothing but gratitude for both of you. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
being here today. For Ecology members, this session is recorded. We will have it available on the platform for you. If you are not an Ecology member, we would love for you to join us. Every membership has a 2-week free trial, so you could jump in for 2 weeks and you could watch the recording again if you missed it. So that would be awesome. Thank you to Rachel and Daniel. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Please, please pick up an instrument today. Sing something in the shower, sing something in your car if you're commuting somewhere.
Or go
Make sure
color or paint or
right,
draw,
right,
That's
exactly.
right.
it's
Bring
gonna
some
help you.
element of the arts into your life today. Thank you so much to both of you. We will see everyone at our next Ecology Presents. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.